the season.
Yeah.
That it's a bit strange that we're now getting similar-ish decisions. I mean, actually, on that one of Garbutt's, it was James Shaw's foot that got to the ball, so it probably should have been a penalty. Not a penalty try. They're not penalty tries, those, but it probably at least should have been a penalty to Leeds, and they probably would have gone through at some point on Hull because they were dominant physically.
Yeah,
so let's talk about that side of it, shall we?
Yeah, because, I mean, they served up a good effort, I thought, Hull FC. Given that they were, well, I don't think they would have been on the piss, but they're backing up from a big, hard-working cup final, and they were there or thereabouts for 60 minutes, weren't they?
Certainly, and in fact, possibly even longer. I mean, Leeds' defensive work was pretty shoddy in this game, I thought. I mean, Scott Taylor's try, all credit to him for what he did, barging through like that and fooling everyone and stuff, but that to me is a Leeds goal line defence not switched on, falling for that, and then not being able to stop him.
And they've had games like this intermittently all season, haven't they?
Yeah, whereas I could understand some of the lapses a little bit more in the
Hull team.
Hull team's goal line defence, because their goal line defence has been pretty strong for the last 2 months. And I can understand this week having a week off, so I can understand them conceding a lot of points. Leeds, I'm not sure why. So it makes me feel like, I can't remember who it was who said, Bragg, Leeds without the south stand.
I don't think it's anything to do with the south.
There's an extra bit of momentum in the atmosphere at Headingley, though, will not be as imposing for people if they're going to defend their own line like that.
But they've had games throughout the season where they've not defended their own line like that at Headingley, and they've had a south stand there. But I do take your point. Going into the semis, an away trip to Leeds probably less intimidating than an away trip to Castleford because of the noise that will be generated and the atmosphere that will be on display at Welford Road. Whereas now, it probably does take something from the... it's not as an intimidating a prospect as it perhaps was.
I might have a look at that
2 or 3 weeks ago.
I might have a look at that and see, because I'm not sure Leeds have conceded more than... Was it 26 points they conceded in this game?
I'm not saying that they've had long periods... They've had periods of time where they've been defensively switched off.
Yeah, but... I don't know if this is... that tablet's taking a while to load. I'm going to have a look and see if this was the most they've conceded at home this season, though, Tom.
Fair
enough.
Well, if it is, then it's not the right time of year to start doing it, is it?
No, exactly.
Which would make that point, wouldn't it?
And it speaks more to Leeds not being great in this game. But I do think attacking wise they were quite good. Yeah. I can't remember if it was Burrow or Maguire. I was uncertain at the time who put that kick in for the try right at the end for Matt Parcell, but that was sweet.
That was, I thought, it was Maguire.
Was it?
Let's talk about the headbutt. Should have been. Let's just cover it off. He should have gone. He should have gone for 10. He's getting away with that scot free, like we've talked about, because he's got sufficiently good.
I don't know
disciplinary record. Yeah, he'll pay £300 for that, but he'll be playing next week.
Do you think it was a send off or a sin bin?
It's a bin. Sit him in the bin for a bit. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen on a rugby league field, but it's something that needs to be quashed. Because what does it lead to, potentially? That's the other side of it. That's something like that is an opportunity for a referee to take that chance to reimpose himself on the game as well, and it's an opportunity missed.
Huddersfield put 30 points on him.
Alright.
Yeah, there you go.
So Leeds, despite having secured themselves a home semi-final...
Well, no.
Oh, it's not a home semi-final, is it?
They've secured themselves a playoff place, though. Yeah. And I think that's deserved. I think they have been pretty good this year. I think, obviously losing Moon late in the day for this one, not ideal, but Burrow played pretty well. The best game I've seen him play in the half for a while. And Maguire's had a good year, and as has... Jack Walker has played well again, didn't he? I think he got Sky Man of the match. Then Cuthbertson and Parcell, they don't deserve to not be in the top two the way they've played.
No, of course not. They've had a phenomenal season. They probably will be in the top two, won't they? Now, but yes. If you had to choose one side to go away to in the semis, you'd choose Leeds over Castleford, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Obviously, they've not been anywhere near as consistent, and you just don't feel like there's a big imposing. I mean, that second half, They scored a few penalty goals and stuff and that sort of thing, but they didn't really, dominate it, did they? They were actually... What was the scoreline at half time? We have that written down, don't we?
We do, yes. It was... Bear with me.
Because that was when they ran away with it.
24-14 to Leeds at half-time.
And then the points difference at the end of the game ended up as... so it was 10 points at half-time and 12 points at full-time. So they didn't run away with it in the second half like you would have thought they did. Even especially after they got that early sort of try from Cuthbertson. You would have thought, that
You thought they pulled away, but no, Hull stayed with them, didn't they? So fair play. Well, what did the stats tell us then?
Leeds made 205 more metres at 0.6 metres per carry better gain. Although Hull actually made more breaks, 8-5, and more tackle busts by 15. Leeds' less effective defence was countered by 4 more penalties and 2 more errors given up by Hull FC. And Hull FC's discipline was appalling in this game, and their mouth to the referee after being ill-disciplined was equally as appalling in this game. Gareth Ellis had no right to have a go at the referee after Seeker Manu pulled the marker down, trying to play a ball. And Danny Houghton... What did Danny Houghton do that was any worse? I mean, he might not have sworn, I don't know. What did he do that was worse than when Farrell got sin-binned at Hull or Maguire got...
Well, probably enough, yeah.
Because he waved his arms around and shouted at the referee.
Yeah.
When I can't even remember which decision that was against. It was not that controversial in my head.
Yeah, we just kicked
I think it was the Borough to Sutcliffe pass, actually.
But no, I agree with you. It was, it's not something we want to see, is it?
No.
Right, so, individually, who stood out for us?
Ryan Hall, 138 metres. Callum Watkins, 102 metres. Jack Walker, 1 try assist and 107 metres for Hull FC. Jamie Shaw, 7 tackles, 151 metres and 2 clean breaks, so he certainly was still had a spring in his step after Wembley. And Seeker Manu, 106 metres for him. Okay,
so on to Friday evening then, and Castleford had a bit of a rotation, and they nearly came unstuck against the Huddersfield Giants, Mark. Eventually they came out on top, though. It was 16-24 in favour of the Tigers over the Giants, in front of 6,248, refereed by Scott Mikulowski's coming over here refereeing our games.
Disgrace. And Huddersfield were in at half-time, weren't they?
They were.
12-6.
They were. They nearly came unstuck. But what did the fans say?
Fat Boy Rob said, "Bastard kebab house was shut. I had 2 apples all day in anticipation of that double XL kebab on a big fuck-off naan. Bad start. On to the match. Huddersfield rolled around like footballers milking penalties all night. Cass didn't learn but still won. Eden made McGilvery look like a sausage to set up Gale's try. Rankin needs to spend less time trying to ref the match and shanking kicks and more time making tackles."
Mark W said, "That was hard to take. We bossed the first half while Cass only seemed interested in milking penalties, so the penalty milking accusation goes both ways. But after half time they were at their best and we took up the unconventional tactic of offloading to nobody on every second tackle. Seb, Jerry and Clough were in top form. Webster was great for Cass. Other than a slow ruck both ways, it was a decent game. Just wish we'd nabbed the 2 points. Time to build for next year." That isn't unconventional indeed, Mark.
And Tyler Cass fan says, "Cass were a bit flat in the first half, but after Powell worked his half-time magic, we hit the usual purple patch and took the game away from the Giants, for whom Icky played really well and was a handful all night."
Yes, so rotated a bit the
forwards
at Castleford. But squad rotation and managing your team at this time of year and still coming away from a victory, that's all ticks in boxes for me if you're Darryl Powell. First half performance notwithstanding, I think you've got to be happy with that.
Well, sounds as though Ikehefo was dominant in that first half, pounding his way through, and then if the offloads were loose, which I think that's one thing with him and Ikumatai and people like that, is they are guilty of loose offloads sometimes, and it's Huddersfield have looked great this year when they've had some unstructured play.
Yeah.
But that's the highlights that we're seeing.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of full Huddersfield games this season. I haven't seen as many full Huddersfield games as a lot of other teams' games. But the highlights look great. But
that's
not only a small part of the story, isn't it?
True. And they are great to watch. And I like the offloading game that they play. And there is an inherent amount of risk in that. And they can't just be skittling people out of the way all the time, can they? There will be. They will have to pass the ball occasionally. And in the first half, it came off. It was coming off well for them. They were in a good position. Yeah,
I mean, it does just typify everything that we've come to expect since we've been hosting this show. That both sets of fans have the same criticism
of each
other's players.
But then if they're both saying it, then they both must have been. I think they probably were both doing it. And again, it's just.
And that's the thing that's annoying.
The least rugby
because
thing.
This came after McDermott's ran after the full time of the game the night before, yet players were still fucking up to it.
Yeah, because like you say, what's the easier yards to make? the penalty yards, or the running into Spreaker Hihifo yards.
Yeah,
I know what I'd try and do.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? But that's not in the spirit of the sport, is it? That's the problem. That's what makes me most upset about seeing this, is that, there's a dishonour to it in my mind. It's not honourable in the way that you go about playing this sport, and the kind of the history of rugby, and the kind of the unspoken code that we all have about it being gritty and hard work and being sporting, and not being like other arenas of sport where you see this more prevalently. For sure, yeah. It's disgraceful for me.
The more the pressure's there, the more the money, maybe, your livelihood and stuff, the more likely you are to cut corners.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Possibly.
But anyway...
Well, Hull went in at half-time. They were ahead, weren't they? Jake Webster got things off... Sorry, yeah, Huddersfield. Jake Webster got things started for Castleford, but then Huddersfield pegged them back through Roberts and Clough.
Well, Ollie Roberts has got to be in the young player conversation for the Sloppies, I would suggest. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but I'm pretty sure he fits under was 21 or under at the start of the season cut off. But it was that second half, kind of Cass's former last 20 minutes of the first half has now become the first 20 minutes or so of the second half, hasn't it? And Greg Eden scored a nice try, but then had a great break that set up Gale with some sort of fluid, speedy kind of Cass play.
Yeah.
And then that kind of was game over after an hour almost, because it doesn't seem like Huddersfield had enough structure.
No.
And that's something they maybe lack when Ridyard hasn't been playing for them this year, because Rankin and Gaskell are both very, very similar players. And
they're like a broken field, aren't they?
The passing game is secondary to their positional game, I would suggest, in terms of where they hit the ball, where they hit the lines, is great. They often find themselves in really good positions, but executing to people is a little bit hit and miss. Yeah. And when Gaskell scored a hat-trick last week, that's when you kind of know he's not going to do as much
possibly so.
The next week.
That's it. Benny Roberts, another big performance for him as well, for Castleford.
He's been a great player all season. Since he earned his place back in the side, probably about a month or so in, when they sort of drip feeding him back through, and then Chase was out of the side and he was in, and then that's been the glorious times, hasn't it?
It was indeed. Statistics then, who stood out for it?
Well, the only
tell me the story of the game, in fact.
The only stats that really back up a Castleford win was the 4-3 try count from a 6-4 clean break count. The Giants narrowly edged meters and tackle success. Errors were level, and Cass conceded a couple more penalties. So, close one.
Individually, who stood out for us?
Webster, as had a mention there from Mark, he was spot on. A try, 108 metres, 3 successful offloads. Jack Hitchcock, his winger, also had 3 successful offloads and 116 metres. Jesse Senni-Lafeo with 111 metres, and Junior Moores with 5 tackle busts and a massive 151 metres for him, as he's getting back to his best, with people like Millington and what's his name, Lynch, and people rested for this one. There's a lot of exciting players to come back in for Cass.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good forward pack with those two getting back into form.
And how about for the Giants?
Cruz Leeming continues his impressive season. A try assist for him, 40 tackles and 10 marker tackles. Sebastien Ikehifo, 10 tackle busts, 122 metres, 3 successful offloads. Jordan Turner, 111 metres. And then the Kudjilvare wing worked well in terms of getting ground, with 137 from Leroy and 153 from Jerry.
Which do you like better, Kudjilvare or Makudjo?
McJoe. I don't know.
McGilljoe. Why are we even worrying about it? I'm sorry.
I don't know, yeah.
What a pointless thing to bring up, I do apologise. Okay, at the same time though, Salford continue to plummet down the table as their season continues to implode. 18 points to 43 they were beaten by Wakefield in front of 2,489 down at the AJ Bell.
Yeah, and Wakey White gets in touch to say, great performance from Trin tonight, overcame a very physical Salford side who came out looking to physically bully them from the kick-off. Wakey held firm and put in a quality display on both sides of the ball. Tyler Randall, the pick of the bunch, with 2 tries and classy hooker display on debut. Salford were like a love-struck teenager, continually asking their crush out, only to be rebuffed and humiliated time and time again.
Jesus, we've crawled back into the depths of someone's subconscious there, haven't we? Brian Davies says a good effort from Trin. Early soft try to Salford didn't bode well, but we got back into the wrestle and gradually took control. Tyler Randall scored a couple of tries with a show and go on his debut, and having him in the squad and Jake Jacob Miller back for the running is looking good for